Hey everybody, welcome to Goots' Wrestling Pod. I'm your host, Ray Goots, and with me is Andrew Lee. Andrew Lee, bro, how you doing, bro?
I'm all right. How about you?
Um, right now AEW is happening. I think Okada's gonna show up, more like Okaka.
Wait,
But
wait, wait. Tonight?
yeah, apparently he's gonna make his debut tonight.
Wow. So yeah, while we're doing this, let's keep up to date with what's happening with AEW
Yeah,
Dynamite
yeah, because maybe they lied to us, and it's 9:10 right now on a Wednesday. But I'll tell you,
Eastern Time.
we are on the road to WrestleMania. I have the big show, the Laps Fan Guys, WrestleMania Sunday. The WrestleMania card is shaping up. And what better way to be on the road to WrestleMania than to talk about a WrestleMania 9? Overall, your thoughts on this show?
WrestleMania 9. It was not as bad as I thought it was gonna be, but also wasn't that good either.
Yeah.
'Cause you said that most people say this is the worst WrestleMania of all time, right?
Yeah, I still think it's 11, but we'll get there.
Huh.
Yeah, I don't think this is the worst because also it's under 3 hours, so that makes it better than a lot of the later ones. But I just think the booking sucked. The bookings and every match has a shitty finish, and he's losing a lot of his magic. I don't think this also does not feel like a WrestleMania. I mean, I love the set. I think it's one of my favorite WrestleMania sets, but the way the matches are laid out and it just doesn't feel like WrestleMania. It just feels like a house show that they did in an outdoor place.
Some matches did feel like a WrestleMania. Um, some matches 100% felt like a episode of Superstars.
Yeah.
Um, I will say this: Okada did the debut.
Oh,
Dynamite.
you
Yeah,
looked it
and
up?
you know what? He came out looking like a fucking superstar. He came out looking like a Japanese Cody Rhodes.
Did he
Um,
go adrenaline in my roads? I like
yeah, he did
sushi.
that. Yeah.
He did that.
Anyways, going back to WrestleMania 9, I think as we'll go over these matches as we do it, but some matches, 100%, I was like, yeah, this looks like a WrestleMania match. But then others, yeah, I was like, this was a straight up jobber match. But let us get into it. WrestleMania 9, the world's largest toga party, taking place on April 4th, 1993, in Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. And as Ray, you mentioned, you said this is your favorite themed WrestleMania.
I no, I no no. I love the set. I
Oh,
love the
you have
set.
to say that's
I
right because
don't
they
love
do.
I don't love that they made everybody wear togas. I feel like that was Vince fucking with everyone.
Yeah, yeah. So this set is set up like everything's taking place in Caesar's casino. So everyone, everything is Romanesque. Everyone's dressed up in stupid ass togas. There's 16,891 people in attendance. The intro graphic has Junior's voiceover introducing us, and he throws it to Gorilla Monsoon. Gorilla is in toga, and he welcomes the newest member of the commentary team, Jim Ross, who's also found newfound energy, just like Jesse Ventura did in WCW. That split was great. It was great for
Yeah,
both parties.
he plays off Bobby Heenan a lot better than I think, because Bobby Heenan forces it. He's like, there's a couple times where Jim Ross tries to like not play along, and Bobby Heenan just kind of like hammers down. And I think like, and then Jim Ross like bites back, and it's pretty good.
Yeah, I think right off the bat, I could see a noticeable difference,
Yeah.
and it was
Also,
because if you
I
notice, he was just smiling a lot,
I
right?
think also like Bobby Heenan's way more likable than Jesse Ventura.
Yeah, and I think he also probably was told by Vince, "You better fucking smile, and you better. This is the big times," you
But
know.
Jim Ross says in the podcast that he loved Bobby Heenan. He would have worked with him for like 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone who's worked Bobby Heenan says they loved working Bobby Heenan. So
Yeah, pretty much, except for Tony Schiavone, probably. Um, but anyways, once again, Caesar and a black Cleopatra comes out with gladiators riding a fucking elephant, and the
mhm.
elephant is super well trained. It gets to stand on its fucking hind legs, doesn't kill anybody. I was like, wow, this is a good elephant. A lot of animals going to be on the show. Macho Man, he comes out with a llama, and he's being carried out on a bed and a fan while he's. By the way, the aisles is very very narrow,
Mhm.
so there's tons of times where people are coming down the aisles and fans are fucking with them. So if you notice when Macho Man's getting carried out in this bed with these women, a fan grabs one of his tassels,
Mhm.
right? And won't let go, and he has to like yank it. Oh,
Yeah.
it's so funny. And
Um,
Bobby Heenan comes out with an ostrich, a vulture, and he's riding a camel backwards. And Savage exposes his underwear. What did you think about these entrances with these animals?
well, the pop for Macho Man is one of the biggest pops on the show, and the more I watch of this era, the more obvious it is that like it was just insanely stupid to have Savage just do commentary. He's still like so over. Like the pop he gets is huge,
Yeah,
and it's like it's almost like if like Cody Rhodes just did commentary this year. Like you know, like yeah, Cody Rhodes is just gonna be the commentator with Corey Graves and Wade Barrett. We're not gonna have him wrestle. Like it's like this guy's so over. Why are you just? The more I see of this, the more I get why Macho.
especially if you think he's old and he's like from Hogan's era, but Hogan's wrestling in this, right? So
Yeah,
how old is Macho Man if you have a guy who's from his era wrestling in the main event? You know,
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this, and I think people can disagree with me. I don't care. I think not using Macho Man as a top star in 93, 94 is one of his biggest mistakes that he made. It's one of his mistakes that could have cost him everything. Because I think if Macho Man was still getting a push in 93, 94, he would have gone to WCW. Because he went to WCW because he wanted to be a top guy again. He didn't want to sit like a fucking clown in the booth while everybody else was having matches, you know?
I think that's uh like an off take. I think a lot of people would agree with you on that.
Yeah, I think like
That's like
because
a very common take. I think he's
yeah,
absolutely
because
right. He fucked that up. Yeah.
the image of Macho Man Hogan on the other channel really helped them. And if you could have just kept Macho Man and kept him as your top guy, I mean, like you could have had him as a top guy until like the year 2000. Like he still could go. Like you basically gave up 7 years of this guy drawing money and having great matches for what? For what? And it's not like he was involved in steroid shit because you know, he wasn't. He's not a Hulk Hogan level muscular guy, you know, or warrior. He's a little guy. So why not just? It's so stupid.
You know what I think it is? I think it's because he was like Vince McMahon saw him in the clown outfits, and he was like, "I can't have a rodeo clown." You're on commentary. That's what it was. It was the rodeo clown outfits, bro. Probably what it was.
Or
Anyways, we're gonna go right into our first match. It is for the Intercontinental Championship. Shawn Michaels, HBK, the Intercontinental Champion, comes out, followed by a debuting Luna Vachon.
yeah,
And Bobby Heenan goes over her pedigree. Now, this is something that a lot of people will need, I think, even now, they need to start doing. Where if you have somebody debuting, the commentators, if you're not going to do a video package, you got to have the commentators telling us why this person is important. So if,
mhm,
when Luna's coming out, Bobby Heenan's like, she comes from one of the best wrestling families of all time. You know, her dad's like Mad Dog Vachon, her uncle's this, or but the most dangerous wrestling family. Can you imagine if like AEW did this, right? Whenever they have like somebody showing up out of nowhere.
yeah,
But
that'd be fun.
anyway, Shawn Michaels will be facing Tatanka, and he is followed out by Sherry Martel. Jim Ross refers to Oklahoma as the land of the red men in honor of this match. And right away from the beginning, Shawn Michaels goes to the floor, and Luna comes up to him, but then Sherry squares off with Luna. And then Shawn Michaels does like a really shitty sunset flip cover off the top for two. People gotta stop doing this fucking shitty sunset flip cover. It's awful. We saw Mick Foley do it off the top.
I think it was a thing they were trying to do in the '90s. They kind of move away from it as we get closer to the Attitude Era.
There is one person who I'm gonna bring up who does it really well, but the rest of these guys they just do it really fucking bad.
Who's that?
Shawn Michaels was one of them. He did it really fucking shitty here
Oh,
with
who's the
Chicago.
guy who does it well?
I'll mention it later on. In
Hebrew.
Savage keeps saying during this match, he keeps going, Tatanka is doing the thing. He's gonna say this a lot, doing the thing. I don't know what it means.
He's just trying to get in his catchphrases and not like
Oh,
because I think he has to still be the Macho Man and do commentary, but like I think it's hard to like I think if he did like real commentary, he'd have to like drop the voice and be like, the Tonka is hitting the elbow drop, and the thing about the thing about the O'Connor roll and the half and half suplex is so he's got to be like he's doing it, what I mean?
doing the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, he can't be like Excalibur or fucking Taz. He
Yeah.
has to like be a character.
I guess you're right. Good point.
Yeah.
Tatanka has the advantage of most of the match. He's working on Shawn Michaels' left shoulder until Shawn Michaels hits super kick. And then Tatanka gets thrown out the ring, and Sherry makes sure to keep Luna away from Tatanka. HBK gets up on Tatanka's shoulders, and he tries to spin into a victory roll, but they're just not communicating well. Just like kind of like the sunset flip, something was wrong. Where they're not
I think
communicating
it's
well.
the Tonka's just not that good.
Yeah, that I didn't know. You know what, Tubi? I think you hit the nail on the head because even the sunset flip cover, that was more on Tatanka's part than Shawn Michaels. And this thing, where Shawn Michaels trying to get a leg over the other shoulder, but Tatanka's like holding onto his legs, so he can't do it. So they do this victory roll that could have been really fucking bad. It just didn't look good. Shawn Michaels gets back on Tatanka's shoulders again, and then Tatanka hits an electric chair job. But HBK still stays in charge, and then Tatanka starts calling on the powers of the Ultimate Warrior.
He's what do you want to he's Indiing up. I guess you can't say hulking up.
Yeah,
Punked it up.
he's doing what Ultimate Warrior was doing, calling
Yeah,
on the powers of his ancestors,
yeah.
powering up, and then HBK, his hits no longer have any effects on Tatanka. Sherry Martel, Sherry chants start breaking out as they fight on the inside, and then Shawn Michaels yanks the referee out of the ring, and then the referee calls for a DQ victory for Tatanka after Tatanka hits his fallaway slam for the finish, but it doesn't matter. That's a DQ win. Sherry's on the apron trying to complain with the ref, and then Luna just starts beating on her, and Tatanka has to help her out. What did you think about this opening match?
You know,
Tatanka versus Shawn Michaels.
for a lot, most other shows, I'd be like, oh, it was all right. But for years, I always thought Brett Yoko was the best match. I think this is the best match on the show. The crowd is really into the near falls. Shawn Michaels does a great job of the near falls. Once Tatanka hulks up, it becomes a different match. And I think it's because Tatanka is primarily on the offense and Shawn Michaels is bumping. So he makes Tatanka look like he actually could be someone important. My problem is with the finish. If you're gonna do a DQ or a count out, I think Luna and Sherry should have been involved. They just stand there until the match is over, and then they do their thing. Like,
And then they get involved after the match is already over. Yes.
yeah, and Shawn Michaels is just kind of he moves on because later on he starts the feud with Perfect, so he's not even. I would have had that like because I thought watching. So I thought when I heard about this that Shawn Michaels got like an insane girlfriend. Like he's decided to date a sociopath, right? Like she was gonna be his China, right? And she just stands there and they never associate each other again. So I'm like, why did she even have to come out with him? It just like if you're gonna do a fucked up finish, that's what I would have done. But if you're not gonna do that, then I would have had either Tatanka win the belt or Shawn Michaels pin Tatanka. But I really thought that once Tatanka hooks up, the match goes another level. And in my opinion, it's the best match on the show.
I'm gonna have to say this is probably maybe the fourth or fifth best match on the show. There's plenty of other matches better than this match, yes. And this will be the first of many matches that will end with a DQ finish or some kind of ref bump, some kind of stupidity.
Dude, every single match has a terrible finish except for this match.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Except for one match. I thought it had a pretty good finish.
Mhm.
We're gonna go move on to, and I will agree, Tatanka was not at HBK's level at this by this match point.
And he just digresses from there. That's the crazy.
Probably does, yeah. I know. I do remember his stomach getting big. Like
Yeah.
he was like in less shape the more.
That was a Royd gut.
Yeah, it was a Roy gut, absolutely. Mean Gene Okerlund, he is with the Steiner brothers. who's cut a promo about how tonight's match they're gonna make Caesar proud. I thought that was really funny. We're gonna make Caesar proud. I'm like, all right,
I
dude.
guarantee you Vince gave him that line.
Yeah. Match number two. It is the Head Shrinkers with Afa versus the Steiner brothers. Fatu and Scott Steiner start, but the Head Shrinkers are able to throw both of them out, only for the Steiners to come climb back up to the top rope and then hit stereo flying clotheslines. Jim Ross during this match informs us that Sherry was attacked again backstage by Luna. So it's just 2 times that she was attacked. Scott Steiner does a. There's this point in this match early on where Scott Steiner goes flying off the ropes and he's supposed to get like stun gunned on the ropes, but he goes flying over the top and like lands on the floor. It is devastating. I don't know how he didn't die. And then as soon as he gets up from this, Alpha hits him really hard with the kendo stick. It's brutal. I don't know how he's like. I don't know how he believed to continue
They're
that.
tough guys.
Yeah, he like legit flew over the top rope. It looked like he landed on his head. It was
Oh
insane.
wow.
Yeah. Anyways, the Head Shrinkers beat on Scotty a lot with a whole bunch of double team moves. The Head Shrinkers, I don't think they get enough credit for the amount of like they were a good heel tag team. They tagged in and
They're
out
pretty good.
frequently.
They
Yeah,
were a good team in the WCW, and they're a good team here. Yeah.
yeah. They do a lot of double team moves. They definitely work well as a unit, and they're just working on Scotty. Finally, Rick Steiner hot tags in. He's cleaning up, but it's short lived because he decides to headbutt the Samoans, which is a fucking fatal mistake. Because he's beating him, he headbutts them, they just look at him and they just fucking knock him out. And then what do you call it? But Rick Steiner is able to do his fantastic signature move where he's in an electric chair position and one of like Samu fucking jumps at him and he catches him and he fucking drops into a power slam. I love that spot Rick Steiner does. It is I don't think I've ever seen anyone do that since regularly. Like he
No.
does it regularly, right? And he does it to big fucking guys. He did it to Samu. That's fucking crazy. Scott Steiner gives Fatu a belly to belly, and it looks like he lands on his head. But then he hits like a Frankensteiner, but it's a weak Frankensteiner on Samu for the win. I thought this was probably the second best match, or second or third best match on the show. Very good match. I love the
Um,
Steiners. What about
I,
you?
I liked it. I liked it. Definitely, like after these two matches, you're like, all right, the show isn't as bad as everybody says.
Yes.
And this has the. I will say this is the best finish on the show. It puts over the Steiners clean as a whistle, and it does what it's supposed to do, which is let you know the Steiners are on the road to superstardom. I mean, they didn't get there in WWF, but whatever. Yeah, it was a good match. I didn't love it. For some reason the Shawn Michaels Tatanka match this time sucked me in more than this match, but it was fine. It was a good. It felt like a good TV match.
That's fair.
Mhm.
Mean Gene Okerlund, he is with Doink the Clown. And Mean Gene recaps his attack on Crush, where I believe this was an episode of Superstars or something.
Yeah, it was
Where,
Superstars. This is
where,
before. This is when they really weren't shooting angles on Raw. It was
yeah,
weird.
yeah. So Doink, he has been for weeks just being around the arena, just like pulling pranks on people, like throwing like a bucket of water on Marty Jannetty, throwing a bucket of like glitter on Bam Bam Bigelow, and I think he did something to Crush, and Crush got really annoyed, so he like hurt Doink's hand. So then the following week, Doink came back and he's like got his arm in a brace, and he's like, "Come on, man, take this flower and like forgive me." Crush takes the flowers, and Doink reveals that it's a fake arm, and he starts beating Crush with it. And Doink, that's why their match is now set up for WrestleMania. And Doink says Crush will be seeing double vision tonight, and then he sprays Dean with some water. We're gonna go to match number 3. Go ahead.
Wait, I want to say about the promo. Dude, this was Matt Bourne's Undertaker. This was his Kane. He should have still been alive in 2013 doing this character. Like doing this, like how Kane, like 20 years after he shows up, is still Kane. Like he's still like fighting like Braun Strowman, right?
Mm-hmm.
He should have in another world if this guy had his shit together, he would have been around for 20 years.
If
And
he
he would
had
be in the
his
Hall
shit
of Fame.
together, yes,
He would have been like, this guy is the great. It would have been him, not the Undertaker, is the greatest gimmick of all time.
Yeah, I think
And
so.
I can't believe how bad he fucked everything up.
Yeah. Um, yeah, he was pretty. You know what made it good was his facials.
Yeah.
You know, because like he would be like smiling, and he could get like really like sinister looking in a split
Because he was a
second.
piece of shit in real life. Yeah, and you saw
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
The top didn't show him a piece of shit.
yeah. He could change on the dime his facial,
Yeah.
and his timing for when to change the facial was really he had it spot on, and he also had a good clown laugh that
Yeah.
I thought was good. So he kind of fit the role really well, and I agree with you. If he probably wasn't on drugs, he this is a gimmick they could have like, hey, we want to do Doink again, but let's like retool it.
But
Let's like how they kept changing Undertaker to fit with the times. Like
yeah,
I
they could have done
feel
that with
like
Doink. They could have. I
yeah,
mean,
but
like, yeah, the other thing about Doink, I think the problem with Doink is that nobody appreciated at the time. I mean, the black and white magazines were having a fucking panic attack that there was a clown on WWE TV. Like they just thought that was such an insult to wrestling that they and it's like they're not even paying attention. Um this guy's doing Joaquin Phoenix Joker shit before there was a Joaquin. You know what I'm saying? Like this guy's doing shit so ahead of its time, but they just because everyone said like WWE circus, WWE that all the wrestlers are clowns. So like I think they kind of thought like you're spitting in our face. We like traditional, but meanwhile they weren't even watching that Doink was having you don't really see it with Crush because there's another thing where the fucking other guy sucks. Doink was having, if you go back and watch some of the original Raws, Doink is having fucking really good technical matches with people. You know, he's not like fucking stinking up the ring. That's what, and it just, but I also think like that negativity towards it kind of got in his head and like kept people from accepting how great it is. You know, that's why it became a joke with Ray Apollo later.
that and with the Dink, yeah, I'm
But he was
saying.
already gone when they brought in Dink.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, you know who really ruined it was him. You
Yeah.
know, if he was like Undertaker and addicted to playing dominoes, I think it would be a different story.
I think
But
that well, the
instead,
reason they turned Doink face was people were starting to dig him because he was so like crazy. And then the minute they turned the face, he got fired. And then when Ray Apollo came, they turned the because everyone else who played Doink didn't have this guy's talent, so they had to make
yeah,
Doink just a joke.
hmm
Yeah.
but yeah, that's kind of on him. I would say more him than anybody else.
Mhm.
Anyways, we're gonna go to match number 3. It is Crush versus Doink. Crush is already in the ring, and when Doink comes down, he squirts Crush with some of that water, and Crush starts chasing him around the ring and starts beating on him as Savage cheers on Crush, going, "Yeah, do the thing." Doink tries
Never
to,
stop doing the thing.
yeah, he goes, "Yeah, Crush, do that thing," and then he even says, "Crush, crush him." That was really funny. He goes, "Crush, you gonna crush him?" I was like, "All right, man." Doink tries to get some hit-ins, but there's no effect, and that's the way it's supposed to be. I mean, Crush
Mhm.
is humongous compared to Doink, and he shouldn't be like he's almost like impervious. Doink finally gets an advantage, and the commentators all agreed that Doink can wrestle. They all say this guy can wrestle. Who is that guy? He can wrestle. So if you're keeping track, in 1993, you can still say the word wrestle on WWF TV, right? Because they're all saying it.
Yeah.
Rush finally fights back and he applies the Kona clutch, which is like the head cranium vice, but there's a ref bump.
Mhm.
And while the referee is down, Crush gets the clutch on once again, but another Doink comes in with a fake arm and he starts attacking Crush from behind. And after the Doinks knock out Crush, the Doinks do that whole mirror thing where it's like they're pretending like they're looking in a mirror. And then Doink just covers Crush for the win. Afterwards, Bill Alfonso, another referee, comes out and he starts telling the referee, "No, there's two Doinks. There was two Doinks while you were out." And they look under the ring and they're like, "There's nobody under there." Oh. Um, I think I remember people saying like making fun of this match, but I surprisingly like this match.
Um, I don't think Crush really did that good of a job in the match, but I liked it. The finish was really good, and I'll tell you why the finish was really good because you know who the other Doink was, right?
Who was it?
Steve Kern, who was Skinner.
Oh, Skinner.
So, and then the other thing is they don't just leave it like there's two doinks, the one doink vanishes, and then they just move on. The other ref comes down and is like, no, there's another doink. And then they follow it up, and it's like, oh, he's not there. Like, where the fuck did he go? So like there was like a follow up. It wasn't just this dumb angle. There was like some real thought being put into Doink. And I kind of think that if they kept like hiring really good wrestlers and turning them into Doinks, and Doink had an army of like great, let's say you put Bobby Eaton, Chris Benoit, Steve Kern, because Steve Kern was a really good wrestler, he just couldn't show it, right? And it's
Yeah.
like all these clowns that are really good wrestlers. I think that could have been something you never know you're gonna get. You might get Benoit one week, you might get Bobby Eaton. I'm just spitballing like that.
Dude, I think they could still do they
They could do
Doink
it
should
now.
still be a gimmick that's being done now. Absolutely, yeah.
And
I agree.
I remember like kids in the school being excited about this finish because they were like, it looked like the same guy. Like it didn't look like a different guy. And they were like, I remember people being excited about the finish. This is one of the matches. This is how you do like a screw job finish where like you get over the bad guy. And there's so many storylines, and none of them happen. But there's so many storylines that could come from this. It's a really well done. Up until this point, Doink, I think, is being handled even better than the Undertaker was when he first showed up. Like he's being handled really well. I remember everyone in school be liking the finish. Now, as for the match itself, it's okay. Crush, I used to like Crush as a kid. I gotta realize this guy's not. This guy's terrible. He's not a good worker. He can't.
Um,
He
yeah,
can't do the day.
it's like I think the reason why I like this match is because of the Doink's performance.
Yeah,
Definitely not Crush's performance.
and
Definitely not.
Bobby
Yeah.
Heenan doing he's somebody. I can't put my finger on it. Like there was so many that were really building to something special, man. I look, if you want to make fun of Doink, you're a fucking idiot. Go back and it's one of the. This is what I'm losing interest, and this is one of the bright spots of every show is the Doink
Were
shit.
people actually shitting on Doink? I
Yes,
never heard really.
the
Good.
older people were. People my
All of it.
kids were. The black and white magazines were acting like they were raping people in the middle of the ring. Like they were acting like this was the most offensive thing Vince could have ever done.
Ah, those fucking guys.
They didn't know about the pooping on the head.
Yeah. Well, here's somebody who was pooping on the poor people. It's Todd Pettengill. He's up with the nosebleed section. He goes, "Hey, I'm with the Bob Euchre seats," and he's making fun of the poor people basically. And he goes, "Hey, I'm with the Japanese media," and he starts asking them about Yokozuna. Todd Pettengill is going to be doing this throughout the show. We're gonna go to
Um,
match
wait,
number.
wait, 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 wait.
Yes.
I uh I can't believe he got rid of Mean Gene for Todd Pentagal. Todd Pentagal is so fucking annoying. He's so fucking stupid.
I mean, no, he didn't get rid of Mean Gene. Mean Gene was kind of back in the
I
same role
know,
he
but
was
I'm just
before. He's in
like,
the back doing interviews.
I know,
Todd's
but
Todd's taking
eventually Todd
Sean
becomes the
Mooney's
Mean
role.
Gene.
He's taking Sean Mooney's role.
I know he's horrible. I think he's horrible. He is
He's
like
not as good as Sean Mooney. Absolutely not.
he is the kind of moment where I was like, this show's not for me anymore. When he started doing more, and even when I watched like the old Raws on the network, and he does like the community center, not the community center. What do they call it? The control center. The
Community
control
center.
center. He's like, hey everybody. Hey, because Mean Gene, you do them. He goes, WrestleMania 6 is going to be live April 6th. Just announced Dino Bravo versus Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Todd Pettit will be like, hey, boys and girls, King of the Ring is going to be in 2 weeks. And guess what? Crush is going to fight Yokozuna. Oh, boy, those are
Yeah,
two titans.
you know why? Because he comes from radio, right?
Yeah.
And he has that. He's like a morning show guy, right?
Yeah, and he
So
tried to be like
he,
funny.
yeah, he has that fake like, "Hey, we're back," like that kind of morning show guy
Did you hear
voice
how he
he
got
does.
hired by Vince?
Yeah, Vince heard him on the morning show.
No,
No,
that's one of them. But the other thing is,
the
I think this
bathrooms.
is in the bathroom. He was
Yeah,
narrating
yeah.
his shit.
No, but Vince heard him on the morning show on the radio, and he said, "I want this guy come in for an interview." He bombed the interview, but then when he was in the bathroom, he Vince McMahon was taking a shit. It smelled real bad, and he said give me a courtesy flush or something. Made Vince McMahon laugh, and he just hired him from
And
that
then he
time.
was like, "Listen, can you narrate? I'm gonna go poop on this woman's head. Can you narrate? Can you like
Yeah,
do play for that?" Hey,
That's
we're here
exactly
at
what he said.
WPLJ. This man is shitting on a woman's head. How does it feel, young lady?
Do you know how easy it was to get a job back then compared
Well,
to
you heard
today's?
how Oscar got hired, right? From Mabel.
Yeah, he just rapped at
He
Vince.
saw Vince in the hotel lobby. He's a fan. He's like one of these like weirdo fans. Vince is checking in the hotel. He just walks up to Vince, starts rapping out WrestleMania. And Vince is like, that was awesome. He goes, yo, can I get some tickets to WrestleMania? And he goes like, yeah. Bruce, give him VIP tickets. And he got him the secretary, his like assistant's number. And then Oscar called the assistant later on. Was like, I want a job. I was the guy who rapped, and Vince gave me the VIP tickets to WrestleMania 9. And Vince was like, you know what? You can be with Men on a Mission. You're hired.
Yeah, and remember Jameson? He just
Yeah,
was like,
some of the
it
show.
was just like the amount of people who just got jobs for randomly just doing one thing. Like I probably could have went up to Vince McMahon and I started just fucking doing like some like
Oh, you would have
jive
been
dancing,
Mr.
and he
Fuji's
would have
son.
fucking hired me. Yeah, it would have
But
just
let,
been like it's fucking ridiculous.
but let me tell you something, because we were talking earlier about like about comics, and somebody got annoyed that a comic asked how they get booked. If fucking Oscar didn't walk up to Vince McMahon and start rapping, which if he told me I want to do this, I'd be like, no, you should leave him alone, right? Don't bother him. But if he didn't do that, we wouldn't know who he was. He has 30 years of fame because he fucking just went up there and did it. And that let that be a lesson to everybody. Take a chance.
Take a
Okay, they get
chance.
annoyed.
Yeah.
They get it. What
hmm
if Vince was like, "Oh, get the fuck away from me"? All right, who cares? But Vince didn't get annoyed. Vince said, "I want to poop on your head, and you're
Yeah.
hired."
Next time you're in a public bathroom and someone's taking a smelly shit, comment on it.
Yeah, like just take the risk.
Yeah, just comment on it. You might get a job out of it.
Mhm.
Anyway, we're gonna go to match number 4, which could go down as probably one of the worst matches on this show. Razor Ramon versus Bob Backlund, who is the only person who got no music entry. I don't know why he didn't get any music entries. He just
Well,
fucking came out.
my friend, as a kid justified it. My friend John, he's like, "Well, he's so old school. He doesn't want like we were like he doesn't want music. He wants to come out like it's the '70s because he's so
Okay, that that actually is very logical if you think about
yeah."
it. That actually
He's
makes a
just
lot
like
of
he's
sense.
like yeah. We just figured that he didn't want music because he's like still
Uh,
stuck in like
that's
1970s.
probably like that's a very good theory.
Yeah.
Anyways, Bob Backlund wants a handshake right away, which Razor doesn't give him. The commentators keep bringing up how he's 43, but he's somehow they're surprised that he's in such good shape. And it's
Macho
fucking
Man must have been stewing in that fucking hat that he had to like say this shit.
what?
Macho Man must have been stewing because he has to go on how old this guy is, and Macho Man's rapidly approaching that age.
Yeah, and you know what's
Yeah.
crazy? It's like like if you look at wrestling now, it's just like I think CM Punk is 43
No,
right
he's
now.
older. I'm 43. He's older than me. He's 45. 45, 46.
Oh, no way.
He could
CM Punk
probably
45 right
he's
now?
probably gonna go. He's probably gonna be full time for another like 5 years unless he gets injured again.
You know what? Miz is 43 right now.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's like it's insane. It's like he can still go. You're right, actually, by the way. CM Punk is more he's 45. But
yeah.
that's the whole point of this. Yeah, it doesn't fucking matter. CM Punk is 45, and I could still picture him wrestling for at least 2 more years, right? At least minimum 2 more years. And they're talking about Bob Backlund like he's 43. I can't believe he's in the shape he's in. Like they keep saying that. They're like, I can't believe it. He's in great shape. And I'm like, why are they so fucking surprised? But I will say this though, he is not that good in this match.
No,
He
well,
is just
Razor was injured. He was working injured, and they couldn't get it together.
okay. Backlund, because I mean, like he misses a drop kick. Everyone points out the drop kick he missed. His offense seems a little bit off, and Razor's just selling for him, but it looks kind of phony. And Razor wins with an inside cradle. I was like, thank goodness, this match is only like 3 minutes long. Thank God. This probably is the worst match, one of the worst matches on this card.
This match was bad. It's not a good follow up for poor Bob Backlund after his I think on paper when you walk out of the Royal Rumble, you're like, all right, Razor's the top guy. I'll be working with the top guy at WrestleMania, right? But Razor was hurt, and originally, you know what this match was supposed to be originally?
What?
Ric Flair versus Razor Ramon. So Ric Flair
Oh,
said
that would have been great.
if I stay, what are you gonna do with me for WrestleMania? Because I think maybe Rick is thinking like, Rick is thinking about leaving. He's like, well, what if I stay? Yeah, I know you're saying you're downgrading me. What am I gonna do
And
for?
that's a legitimate question to ask, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you're
and
a
he
wrestler, you
goes,
should be asking those
and he
questions.
goes,
Yeah.
you're gonna turn face, and you're gonna job to Razor Ramon at WrestleMania. And then he was like,
Mhm.
okay, I'll leave. But he kind of stuck to that vision by having Bob. I think he saw Rick and Bob as the same fucking guy by having Bob job to Razor.
he, he, probably, he probably did see Rick Flair and Bob Backlund as the same fucking guy. Yeah.
I think he did. Like he's like, I want this. I want one of these old guys to put Razor over if Rick's leaving. Because then he goes, well, what happens after I job to Razor? And he's like, I'm gonna just move you down the card. Like we'll figure it out. You'll have like little feuds, I guess.
Yeah.
But
You're probably right.
give me
That's
one. So here we go. We get to the next match.
yes. So Mean Gene, he is in the back with Ray's favorite tag team, Money Incorporated.
Mm-hmm.
And Mean Gene doesn't like their chances against Hogan and Brutus the Bar Beefcake and their former manager Jimmy Hart. And he recapped how this got built up on Raw, where Money Inc. hit Brutus in the face with a briefcase. And Mean Gene goes, no, people didn't like it. And Hulk Hogan, Brutus's friend, he saw it and he didn't like it. He's upset. And Ted DiBiase goes, Money Inc. doesn't make bets that we can't win. And IRS mentions that Hogan hurt his face earlier. I think the day before, that same day or some shit. And we're going to go to our match number 5 for the WWF tag team titles. We get a shot of Vladimir, superfan Vladimir in the crowd. This fucking guy went all the way to Las Vegas.
Oh, by the way,
Wow.
what do you think of my WrestleMania shirt?
Nice. Is that the? Yeah, I guess because it's the event. Yeah,
It's
fair.
WrestleMania 1, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. Vladimir fucking flew himself there. That's why he will be living in a shitty apartment for the rest of his. Money Inc. The champions versus the Mega Maniacs, which is Hulk Hogan, Brutus the Bar Beefcake, and their manager Jimmy Hart. They get this red fog machine for Hogan's entrance. Hogan comes out with a black left eye. Do you know the story behind his left eye? Well, why is
It's
it black?
2 different stories.
Okay.
Story that Hogan tells is he was in a jet ski accident the day before, right?
Okay.
That's Hogan's story. The other story that no one's confirmed, but I started believing it because on the show they keep referencing that Money Inc. hired someone to beat up Hogan, right?
Yes.
Is that Savage did it. So Elizabeth at this time was going to leave Randy Savage. And she went and stayed at the Hogans. And apparently Linda Hogan really pushed for Elizabeth to go through with it. Like she really encouraged.
Of course, yes. By the way, they covered his story in Dark Side of the Ring. Yes.
Yeah, and the rumor was that Savage punched Hogan in the face, and Hogan denied it. Macho Man was very vague about whether he did it or not. He does, by the way, he does go on WWF radio with Jim Ross in the summer and just trashes Hogan. And reveals, he openly says Hogan fucked up my marriage. Like him and his wife told her to leave me. You know what I mean? Like this WWF had a radio show and they mentioned it, Radio WWF. And if you get the transcript, it's wild that Macho Man saying this shit on an official WWE show. But those are 2 rumors. I don't know. As I was watching the show, I was thinking that Savage did hit him, and they were gonna try to build that to an angle.
By the way, Dark Side of the Ring returned yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
This week, actually, his first episode back in season 5 is about earthquakes. I'm gonna be fucking watching that. That's gonna be.
Oh yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. I love Dark Side of the Ring. Very mysterious. I'm curious about. I don't believe the jet ski shit because
I think it's the Savage shit.
Where is he gonna fucking jet ski in Las Vegas?
Well, he jet skied in Florida, then flew to Vegas. Not that far, but it's not that long.
He flew the same day to Las Vegas.
That's what, or the night before.
Like he's gonna be there earlier than.
But I mean, you could also there's places to jet ski in California.
Yeah, but they're in Las Vegas. It's still. I mean, all
Look,
right.
You could drive, and you could stay in
somewhere.
He jet skied. He jet skied.
Yeah. Okay. I think Savage probably. punched him in the fucking eye and was like, "I'm gonna do the thing."
You know what I think? I think him and Savage had a falling out, and
Uh-huh.
then apparently Savage, when he was leaving, because I heard this on Eric Bischoff, he was leaving. He wanted to leave, and he reached out and made amends with Hogan because remember Hogan said Savage wants to talk to you, and Bischoff was like, I thought you guys weren't friendly, and Hogan's like, we made amends. He's not happy there, and it's all about making money, brother. We got to make that money, brother. And then Savage got on the phone thinking about making the jump. So I think they had the falling out until Savage was like, this guy's never gonna let me wrestle, and I want to make some fucking money.
Mhm. Yeah. So, anyways, in this match, Money Inc. Attacks the Mega Maniacs right away while Hogan's music is still playing, but the Mega Maniacs able to throw Money Inc. out as the music keeps playing. Well, right off the bat, we're off to a good start. I like this. I like this Hogan's matches where like he's just fighting while the music is just keep playing in the
I like that.
background. Something about that is just really fun.
They
You
should
know?
have They should do that at WrestleMania this year. They should have Cody and Seth like start beating up the Bloodline on night one while the Cody song is playing, and then when
Yeah,
Cody hits an elbow on Roman, he goes whoa, and then he
yeah.
goes back to hitting
No, they
Roman.
should. They should absolutely do that where they play the song all the way through at least once, right?
Yeah,
It'll be something about that is really fun.
yeah,
You can't do it all the time, and you
but they
can't
should
do
do
it
it at
for
this WrestleMania.
everybody. Yeah, you can't do it for everybody, but like they did it for John Moxley in AEW, and it was kind of fun where they played the song over and over again. And they do it for Hogan. This is not the. This is like
They do it a
the
lot on Sunday's Main Event with Hogan.
yeah, they did it like they did it like 2, 3 times already with Hogan, and every time they
They
do
did
it,
it at SummerSlam '91. I think he starts
yeah.
beating people up with the music.
Yeah, yeah, and it's great. His song is just playing while he's beating people up. Something about that just makes it more fun.
Yeah,
But anyway, IRS and Brutus, they start the match, and Money Inc. right away. They're just double teaming him right away. Brutus is able to fight back, and he tags in Hogan, who takes it to Ted DiBiase, his immortal enemy. Um, but Hogan also keeps threatening the referee for some reason. It's Earl Hebner, and he threatens Earl Hebner so many times in this match. It's very weird. I'm like, Hogan, you're the good guy. Why are you doing that? It's very weird.
fucking insane.
Hogan clotheslines Ted DiBiase out the ring, and he taunts IRS in. And IRS gets bounced back and forth, and then Hogan does this finger licking eye poke. I love that spot. It was so funny.
Hmm.
Where
Yeah,
he,
that's a good one.
he licks his fingers and then he pokes it in the eyes. That is a great spot. If you don't think Hogan's a good worker, I you need to watch that spot because I don't it's so charismatic. You watch that spot, you totally get why he was so popular. He just
Yeah,
did stupid things like that. It was just really funny. Crowd still loves Hogan. And then the Money Inc. They decide to like leave. They're like, "Fuck, we can't beat this guy," and they leave. The ref gets in, and then the ref goes, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! If they leave and they don't come back, not only do they lose the match, they're actually gonna lose the title. So they have to come running back in." Hogan and Ted DiBiase, they start for the reset, and then Money Inc. They start choking Hogan with the tag rope, so they get the advantage. Then Ted DiBiase gets the $1 million dream on Hulk. And while Hogan is fading away, Brutus kind of comes in and he puts the sleeper on Teddy while the referee is distracted. So both DiBiase and Hogan are knocked out in the middle of the ring. Hogan is able to hot tag Brutus in, and he gets hit by the gold case. And Money Inc. starts working on Brutus, and they rip off his protective face mask. So I should have mentioned this earlier. Brutus, during this whole match, he's wearing this like fake, this like yellow face mask that's supposed to be like titanium. They finally take it off. Ted DiBiase is bleeding from the cheek for some reason. I don't know where he got it from. By the way, some background. Brutus in real life had a fucking knee fly into his face. And it smashed his
well,
face.
yeah, in the boating accident he had.
Yes, which
I
is
wonder
why
if
he
that's how
stopped.
Hogan came up with that lie about the jet ski.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. By the way, it's going to be a future episode of Dark Side this season about
Oh,
Brutus.
maybe they'll address the Hogan thing again.
Yeah. So anyway, this mask is supposed to be titanium. They ripped it off of him, and Brutus gets the sleeper on IRS, but Ted DiBiase hits him, and then he knocks the referee down. So another ref bump. Hogan tags in while the referee is down, and he works on Ted DiBiase and hits both members of the Money Incorporated with the mask, a titanium mask. And then Jimmy Hart kicks his referee jacket, turns it inside out to reveal it's a referee jacket, counts to three, hands the titles to Hogan and Brutus, and Hogan tries to go fucking raise it up, but he struggles climbing up the turnbuckles. This is where the match starts getting very weird. Another referee comes down and says, no, 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 Money Inc. wins by DQ. And the Maniacs are mad and they chase Money Inc. out. And then Jimmy Hart grabs the referee and he throws him out over the top rope. Then they do some struggle strutting and then they do some post downs. This match started good and then it just started getting, just after the ref bump, just got terrible. What about you?
I think one of the biggest mistakes Hogan made in his career was having Jimmy Hart be his manager. I know in real life they got very
Yes.
in Jimmy Hart. I think Jimmy Hart is actually his real life manager. Like Jimmy Hart's like his guy, but ain't nobody want to see a face Jimmy Hart. Nobody. And Jimmy Hart being there with them just takes away so much of Hogan's coolness. And it just takes away from Hulk Hogan. It doesn't add to it. The match itself, I wasn't sick of Hulk Hogan back then. I remember being like, the match is sort of weird. I should like this match more, especially because I was dying for Brutus to come back. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I think this is where I can kind of see watching it now, even as a big Hulkamaniac, why people now are like kind of over Hogan. Like I think, like you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I, as a kid, I remember always back. This was gonna be a good because I was like losing interest because he wasn't around, and then I saw this match and I'm like, oh, he's back, but like this is I don't know what this is, you know?
Yeah, I don't know what this is. Yeah.
And it's like, and then I thought like, oh, maybe him and Bruce be the tag champs for a while. That'd be cool. And then they win the belts, and I'm like, and then Bruce just kind of goes away again, and I'm just like, and they try to make a happy finish, but I don't know. I wouldn't have gotten rid of Hulk Hogan if I could go back in time. But this match makes a case for why he should be going away for a little bit.
Yes. So after the match, they do get IRS's gold suitcase or briefcase, and they open it up. They find a brick in there, and they find some money, and they start flaunting the money in front of all the poor people, and they start handing it out. But then Todd Pettengill, he's with the real poor people up in the cheap Bob Euchre seats,
Mm-hmm.
and he's with Natalie Cole, Nat King Cole's daughter,
Yeah,
and he goes,
she's tagging America the Beautiful, but they cut it out of Peacock for some reason.
"Yeah, oh, that's why she's there." Okay, and then she goes, "Man, I wish I had some of that money." She goes, "That's real money. I want it." And then Todd starts interviewing the CEO of Caesar's uh, Palace, Dan Reichart, who says he loves the energy level. It's fabulous, and he keeps talking. And Todd has to hug him to shut him up. He goes, "Let me just give you a big hug." He just, the guy just kept talking. So Todd goes, "I just want to give you a big hug." And he goes, "All right, like shut up," and then throws it to Mean Gene. Mean Gene, he is with Mr. Perfect, who's got his usual hard nips. And Mean Gene brings up Lex Luger and his forearm, where he's knocking everybody out, including the champion Bret Hart
Mm-hmm.
at a brunch. And Mr.
Which they
Perfect,
don't show.
yeah, they didn't show it. But Mr. Perfect, guys, what's wrong with this guy? You know, why? How is he knocking everybody out? And he goes, "You know what? I'm perfect, and I'm perfect at everything, except for speaking, because he fumbles on his word, and he calls Lex Luger the Lexorcist." Right? And he's like, "The Lexorcist," and Mean Gene's like, "All right, just get out there. We're gonna go to match number 6." Lex Luger comes out first with these 4 beautiful women,
Oh, gorgeous women.
gorgeous women, and he's got a great entrance. Comes out with this fucking like cloak, and then he takes it off, and these women hold up these fucking 4 mirrors, and he just starts posing in front of it, and these fireworks goes off in the mirrors. That's a great entrance. And then Mr. Perfect comes out, but the crowd is super behind him. They
Mm-hmm.
start with a feeling out process, but Mr. Perfect, he stands taller in this feeling out process, and he gets the advantage. So much so that Lex has to take a breather outside. Now, for those of you who think Lex Luger is a terrible worker, you need to watch this match. Mr.
Really?
Perfect, yeah, Mr. Perfect starts, by working on Lex Luger's left leg. You watch the beginning, he's kicking it, he's twisting it. Lex Luger sells the shit out of that leg, even when he is beating on Mr. Perfect. You'll see him limping around, constantly like grimacing when he's like, oh, fuck my fucking leg, even though he doesn't need to. He's just fucking playing along with it.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Perfect does a great sunset flip cover. This is the only time I've seen it where it looks good. He just like jumps high over the guy, fucking covers him. But Lex
It's
kicks out of
perfect
it.
at the moves, brother.
Yeah. And the story of this match is this: Mr. Perfect was starting off working on Lex Luger's left leg. But Lex Luger, he is working on Mr. Perfect's lower back because that's the problem that Mr. Perfect had, where it took him out of wrestling for a while. So he's just constantly working on his back and getting the advantage. Perfect hits a missile drop kick for a 2 count, and they fight for the backslide. Lex wins the backslide fight, and he does put Mr. Perfect in the backslide. However, Perfect's feet are on the ropes, but the ref does not see it, and he gives Lex Luger the win. Perfect is pissed off because he should have gotten the victory. And while he's arguing with the referee, he is blindsided by Lex Luger, who hits him with the forearm that has the metal rod in it, knocks him out, closes with his foot on Mr. Perfect. After this match, Mr. Perfect wakes up and he's annoyed. He's pissed off, so he runs off looking for Lex Luger. He finds him outside talking to Shawn Michaels, and he attacks him, only to get blindsided by Shawn Michaels, who attacks Mr. Perfect. This match got Randy Savage and Bobby Heenan so heated that there is a point after this match where Savage gets up he's like, I want to fucking fight you, Bobby Heenan. And the crowd is like so behind him. And Jim Ross is like, no, guys, don't fight, please. And he has to throw it to Gorilla Monsoon. I thought this was the best match on this whole show.
Really?
The finish is great. The buildup is good. The story that they're telling in this match is good. Even the stuff that happens afterwards where they build on more. Now you're getting Shawn Michaels involved. I think this is the best match in the whole show.
Wow, not a lot of people like this match.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I thought it was good. I can definitely, even though I still think Lex is a very good worker, I can feel him losing a step or two. They should not have made him the All-American retard in a few months. They should have kept him as a narcissist for a long time.
Yeah.
He's way better as
it was great here. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I kind of got what they were doing. So they were gonna have, obviously Hogan's gonna go in a feud with Yoko. Perfect's gonna go off with Shawn Michaels.
Yes.
And the reason why I keep mentioning the brunch, and at the time I thought this was gonna be a really good feud. Lex and Brett are gonna go off.
Yes.
Because you said Lex knocked out Brett. You could use an excuse for Brett to be like, the reason why I told Hogan to go for the belt was because I wasn't 100%. That's why Yoko was able to beat me. Because what Lex did. Now I want revenge on Lex, and then I'm gonna come for whoever's the champ. But I gotta get Lex first. And they just kind of abandoned the Lex Brett thing, and I never understood why, because I think that would have been a really good feud. And I don't know.
The three things you just laid out.
Yeah.
If you're watching this, like if you're just somebody who doesn't know what's gonna happen in the future, just watching this pay-per-view, that's exactly how it looks like it's being laid out. And I have no problems with all three scenarios. I'm okay with Hogan versus Yoko. I'm okay with Shawn Michaels versus Mr. Perfect. I'm okay with Brett versus Lex. And I thought this match really helped set that up too.
I don't know why they don't follow up, because once they get like a few weeks later, they just abandon the Brett Lex thing right away. And then they have Brett feud with Jerry Lawler for months. And I don't
But you know what? Maybe that's what taints people's view of this match. But if you don't think about that, just look at this match as this match standalone. It's a really good match, and it's one of the few matches on this show where there's actually like the finish is unique, and it makes sense because they want to elevate Lex Luger, and he has to be Mr. Perfect, right? But you don't want to make Mr. Perfect look like
an
shit.
idiot.
Yeah. So he's like, dude, he got cheated. And why when he's fucking and you know what? You know how I know this is good too? They're gonna reference this again, like much further down the line.
Yeah. Well, Perfect and HBK feud until SummerSlam. So
Yeah, no, but I don't. There's a point where Mr. Perfect turns heel again, and doesn't he turn on Lex Luger? And it's because of this.
yeah, and again, you think that they're going now Perfect's going to come back and they're going to do a few where Perfect's the heel and Lex is the face, and again they just abandon it.
Yeah.
So I think the thing with Vince is I once heard a writer, so like they were doing the Raw GM story and they were pitching who's going to be the mysterious Raw GM, and somebody brought up an idea and the writer goes like, well, no, that doesn't make any sense because in this episode this character had this that and the third happen with the Raw GM, so they can't be the Raw GM. And Vince was like, nobody remembers that. Nobody gives a shit. What are you talking about? Nobody gives a shit. Like you just they're like, well, we don't explain it. You just no one cares. Why do you? He goes, why do you think anyone would care about that? No one gives a shit.
Wait, who are you talking about? Vince McMahon or Brian Michael
Vince McMahon
Bendis?
is saying to one of the writers that nobody gives a shit.
Did you hear what I said?
But
I said, who are you talking about? Is it Vince McMahon or is it Brian Michael Bendis? Who are you talking about?
I know, right? Exactly. It's like, but it's like, so I think Vince gets bored and just drops plot threads, and we're all like, oh wow, is Lex and Mr. Perfect gonna fight because of what happened at WrestleMania 10? He's like, what? Who cares? Like, who gives a fuck? I don't like.
Yeah.
Forget about it. Like, Lex is gonna fight Tatanka now. You fucking idiot.
There was a time where he wasn't like that, where he actually did care.
Well, I mean, he starts caring more around the Attitude Era. Like, they really like thread things. They kind of like Vince Russo. People don't talk about this, but Vince Russo did a lot of like backward engineering to make like everything make sense to why like Vince hasn't gone nuts until Austin showed up. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you remember Undertaker's promo where Undertaker's like, I know, like, Undertaker did a promo in 98, which was like, the reason why I never went for world titles, you wouldn't let me get world titles because you said that Brett and Shawn were your chosen ones. So I had to fight all the monsters because you knew if the monsters got to Brett or Shawn, they would destroy them. So I had to be like your bitch. And like, oh, now you've made sense of like the last like 5 years why you didn't get title shots and they kept, you know what I'm saying? Like
That's
that,
true. Yeah.
yeah, and like Vince Russo did a lot of that, and no one gives him credit for. But then Vince Russo went nuts in WCW, but that's a whole other story.
So, yeah, anyway, I would recommend watching this match. I thought it was very good. I think maybe another reason why people probably won't like this match is I don't think they're ready to let Mr. Perfect go down the ladder. Because that's what this felt like. It was almost like how Roddy Piper like was putting over Brett. It's like Perfect is putting over Lex.
I also think people just they don't want to give Lex credit.
They don't want to give Lex credit. Yeah,
we're supposed to
that's what it
constantly
is.
see Lex as a flop, and he's gonna flop this year. But I think that's more Vince's fault than his fault.
Yeah, but if you watch this match, I dare you to watch this match on this pay-per-view, and I think if you watch it, be like, this is actually probably the best match on the show. Match number 7, definitely not the best match of the show. Giant Gonzalez will be facing the Undertaker. He comes out with Harvey Whippleman. The aisles are really narrow. This kid fucking slaps Giant Gonzalez right on the arm, and he just stops and gives this death stare to this kid. You could tell it scared the shit out of this kid.
I know.
Taker comes out with one of the coolest entrances that you will ever see Taker come out in. I think this entrance alone is probably worth watching. Taker always got all the cool entrances. He comes out with Paul Bearer with these buff Romans who wheel him out in a chariot. He's got this vulture. These two start off by trading blows. Giant's selling is so hokey. It's what brings this match quality down. His selling is so bad.
I mean, he's not a good worker, and this is the best match he's ever had, and it's still horrible.
Yeah,
he's just not meant to wrestle.
Yeah, he's just not meant to wrestle. He puts on this shitty side suit, a sleeper, and I don't know if you remember, there was another shitty wrestler who did the same move. Do you remember? He's not on this card at all. We saw him in a pay-per-view, and this shitty wrestler.
Andre?
No, but another big fucking slob, a loser.
All right.
Andre's I'll give you one more guess.
Abdullah.
No, not Abdullah. It was Nails.
Oh, okay. Nails. You can't compare Andre to Nails and Giant Gonzalez. All right, come on. He's a classy man.
Yeah. He remember when he put that shitty? It's like a side sleeper. It's like a really shitty move. He put it on Boss Man,
Some
and he put it
agent
on for a
must have been
long
trying
time.
to get that fucking move over because, like,
Yeah, I don't know. Somebody loved
oh, this
this
is gonna
fucking
work.
side sleeper that these big hunking fucking like giant guys to do because Giant Gonzalez is doing it. Taker starts fighting out of it finally, and Giant takes him outside and he starts throwing him to the steps, and it gets some reaction from the crowd. And literally, the only stuff that's really getting a reaction is like Taker going like, "All right, I gotta take some fucking bumps. Like, I gotta take some serious bumps here."
Yeah.
The power of the urn that Paul Bear has starts powering it back up, and he starts attacking the Giant. Harvey Whippleman, he gets on the apron, and he's distracting the Undertaker and the referee. He throws something into the ring. Giant Gonzalez, he attacks Paul Bear, and then he grabs the thinged item, which is a chloroform cloth, and he puts it on Undertaker. The ref calls for a DQ victory on Undertaker. The crowd is booing. Yes, if you're keeping score, this is probably like the third fucking DQ finish. It's
Mhm,
so fucking bad. We had one with the Mega Maniacs, right?
mhm,
DQ finish. The Doink one was a ref bump, right?
mhm.
And just like
The
it's
only
just a
good of all these fuck finish, the only good one was a Doink one, which is why that's the only one
oh
they
wait,
should.
no. Shawn Michaels was a DQ finish.
Yeah, Shawn
Remember?
Michaels.
This
They're
is
all
like the
terrible
third
except for
DQ
Doink.
finish in
Yeah.
one. You know, do you guys remember WCW used to do this shit where they would have like three DQ finishes in one pay per view. This
Do you,
WrestleMania has three
do
already.
you think? Do you think everyone? Do you think there was a thing where a bunch of people were like, "I don't want a job," and so Vince scrambled? Like, I kind of feel like John Gonzalez was supposed to beat Undertaker in this match. Like, I don't think. I don't think like Undertaker was supposed to have a. That's why like when they. Because I remember when I got back into wrestling, they started dropping that he's never lost at Mania, and I'm like, no, he lost at 9. You know what I mean? And then I rewatched. I'm like, oh, he because I remember watching this, being like, oh, he got his ass kicked. But I have a feeling like people. I had this weird theory that like Shawn and Undertaker didn't want to lose, and they had to like move, like maneuver around it, and
Maybe.
maybe even like Hogan didn't want to have the tag. Hogan like didn't want to drop the tag belts. Like he's like, well, if I win the tag belts, I have to drop them too. So like I don't want to, and but also like I don't want Ted DiBiase to win. So I just kind of feel like they couldn't agree on who's going to do the job, so they just had a bunch of fuck finishes.
Or maybe Ric Flair gave Vince McMahon some like great ideas before he left. You know, back in the NWA, we did these.
Or
We
maybe
gotta have
Vince booked
three
himself a bunch of
finishes.
matches he didn't know he didn't know the finishes to, so he just fucking half-assed it.
Yeah, this is stupid. Yeah, but this is yes, that's right. This is the third DQ finish we're seeing in match number 7. So if you're keeping track of score, Steiners had an actual clean finish. The
And
Mr.
Razor,
Perfect, it technically kind of just like a real finish. What was the other two?
Razor.
The
That's it.
Razor Ramon one, which was a really terrible match, and then the fourth one was
There is no
um,
Hogan and Yokozuna. No, Hogan doesn't have a clean
no wait,
finish.
we had 7 matches. Oh no, that makes sense. Whatever. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. It's
Um,
bad.
this
Anyway,
match is very bad. I was very surprised when Undertaker's laid out. They were chanting for Hogan. I did
yeah.
not
So
remember.
what happens is, remember, Undertaker is chloroformed out, and all these officials are there. The Giant won't leave the ring, and he even choke slams Bill Alfonso as a referee, which gets a good reaction. Crowds now livid. They don't like this Giant guy, and they do start chanting for Hulk Hogan, which the commentators do call out. They say, "They're chanting for Hogan." Did you see the two pissed off goth Undertaker fans?
Yeah,
They had
yeah.
that giant. They were so fucking mad at this guy, the Undertaker. That was so funny.
Um,
But then, while he's in the ring, the gong sounds again, and Undertaker comes back, and then he finally knocks the Giant out of the ring, and he has to be escorted out. But you were gonna say something.
yeah. So I don't like this match. I think it's bad, but I will say they made the right call waiting that long for Undertaker to make his comeback because when Undertaker shoves Paul Bearer out of the way, Paul Bearer's like, no, no, stay away. And Undertaker almost shows a little bit of humanity in that moment. And
Mhm.
I think this moment, if you're a fan, I think this moment puts over Undertaker a lot. And you're like, oh, this guy's the real deal. Like the way he comes back to that ring and the way like he starts like breaking character, but not like he's like a little bit more like, get the fuck out of my way. I'm gonna fuck this guy up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think that was really good.
No,
And
it was good,
especially
and the crowd was that got a big reaction.
because
Yes.
the crowd now knows this guy's the real deal and they stop chanting for Hogan. They're like, I gotta believe in this guy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
By the way, the fourth, I just finally figured out the fourth match. It was Crush versus Doink, but I guess
That
technically
is
that's
a,
like
that
a
is a
knocked
fuck
out
thing.
ref.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a fucked up finish. Yeah.
yeah.
So keeping track score, 7 matches, 4 of them have fucked up finishes. Yeah, not
Mhm.
good.
Not good, bro.
Mean Gene, he talks about Mr. Fuji and Yokozuna and how he said these guys have been doing open challenges to anybody who thinks they could beat him. And they recap Yokozuna squashing Jim Duggan. I remember this.
I remember
Yeah.
it too. Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't he also like drape the fucking American flag over him and then fucking sit on him for
Yeah,
the
they
interview?
took that. They lost sponsors and people threatened to pull the show, so that's why they don't show it on the rerun.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, people don't realize this. Jim Duggan, when Jim Duggan passes away, it's gonna make big news because he was so loved.
Mm.
Like he was like the
Well, it wasn't. It
epitome.
wasn't so much that he was loved; it's just that people thought that was offensive to the flag.
No, he the guy wrestler himself, people really
Oh
really
yeah,
love.
I know, but the reason why they don't show the American flag thing was because they got in trouble for air.
Yeah, yeah. But for those of you guys who don't know what we're talking about, let me recap. So Jim Duggan fights Yokozuna. He loses, and after he loses, Yoko decides to just keep bonsai dropping him over and over again. And he even takes the American flag, drapes it over Jim Duggan, and then bonsai drops him. And I remember this was like it pissed so many people off, and it was like a big deal because people love Jim Duggan, man. I love Jim Duggan. I think he's fantastic. Whenever he passes away, it's gonna be a really sad moment. But anyways,
Jim Duggan should have been one of the top guys, especially in 87, 88. They didn't go. Same thing with Jake, but they didn't go through with it. It is what it is.
dude, he was making like guest appearances on things as himself. I remember he showed up in like Harry and the Hendersons as himself. Like,
Yeah,
do you remember that? I was
yeah.
like, yeah,
He
he was
was
great.
over.
He was over, dude. Yeah. They also recap the contract signing between Yoko and Brett, where Yoko squashes Brett. And you can see and hear girls screaming in the crowd because of how upset they are over this.
They love Brett.
Yeah. Mean Gene calls over Hulk Hogan and he asks his thoughts about this match. And Hogan's like, well, all the Hulkamaniacs are behind Brett. And he says, Money Inc., they bought this attack on me last night. So I
But
don't know
that's
if
why
I'm.
I think he's building towards
Yeah.
an angle. It never
Yeah,
showed.
he was like alluding to his eye, and he ends with issuing a challenge. I'm going to issue a challenge to anyone who wins, either be Bret Hart or that Jap for the title. His words, by the way. After that interview, Todd Pettengill, he's with the poor people again, the poor fans, and this fucking guy, he makes fun of a kid for having big ears by saying he has a Prince Charles. It's a child. It's a child. He goes, look at this kid with these Prince Charles ears. I couldn't believe it. I was like, did I
Different
just
era, brother.
I can't believe I just watched this grown man and make fun of a kid on TV. It was insane.
It's a
I,
different era. Fucking yeah, they made. Yeah, I can't stand him.
that
Oh,
was
he
awful.
sucks. He
That
sucks.
is awful. We're gonna go to our penultimate match. It is for the WBF World Title. Yokozuna comes out with Mr. Fuji, and it is for against Bret Hart, the champion. Bret starts right away with a shotgun dropkick and some punches, lots of quick punches, but Yoko just shoves him right off. Bret goes to the outside, but then he ties up Yoko's feet on the ropes, which trips him up. And it's a great move. It's a fucking great setup. But
Mhm.
every 8 hits that Bret gives to Yoko gives Bret like 1 hit, and each time it's devastating. It's just like Bret's just like bah, 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 and then Yoko just like slaps him, and Bret's like, oh, he's dying. There's a moment where Yoko like leg drops Bret, and it looks like it broke his face. Right? He's just like,
By the way, Bret Hart said that this match was supposed to go longer, but Yoko lost his breath and forgot like the sequences. So Yoko basically like put me in the sharpshooter, put me in the sharpshooter, put me in the sharpshooter. That's why it takes. So he goes, this match could have been better, but Yoko fucked it up.
You know what? I'll be honest. I think the amount of time this had was fine. You
I
know.
know Brett said though it would have been even better. I think Brett knows that the whole show wasn't being taken well, and he wanted to really like save it. He said another 10 minutes, it would have been a classic. But Yoko forgot everything.
Okay, yeah, I think man, he might have a good point. I don't. I can see why people won't see this match as a classic because it's kind of short. It's about like 10 minutes or something like
It's
that.
really a very underwhelming WrestleMania main event if you think about it.
Yeah,
Like next
but
year is like way better because they have a
yeah,
way better match. But like it's really like first of all, nobody knew Yokozuna yet. Bret Hart's still very new. I mean, we literally went from like Hogan Warrior to this, and it's not. And then the ending's kind of very flat, and then it gets fucking weird with the Hulksters.
yeah, and it gets weird. But this match itself is actually pretty good. Bret Hart fires back, but a super kick from Yokozuna sends Bret down. Fans start chanting USA, and Bobby Heenan comments about how smart the fans are because Yokozuna's from Japan and Bret Hart's from Canada. That's really funny. Yokozuna misses a splash, and Bret bulldogs him, hits an elbow, hits a clothesline, he knocks him down. In the corner, Yoko starts yanking, pulling on Bret, and Bret is like, pulls the corner pad off, and he exposes a buckle. Yokozuna gets knocked into the buckle, and Bret has to put the sharpshooter on him, facing kind of the corner. While he has Yoko in the sharpshooter, Mr. Fuji throws salt in Yokozuna's eyes.
No, you
I
mean
mean, in
Bret Hart's.
Bret's eyes, and Yokozuna just pins Bret Hart for the win. It's a good match, but the finish just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah,
Hogan just,
because they're supposed to go in another few minutes.
when you say it like that now, that does make sense. Yeah, you're probably right. That does suck that this match was so short. Hogan comes in to argue with the referee, and Mr. Fuji gets in the mic and starts challenging Hulk Hogan. Bret and Hulk Hogan are outside, and Bret starts signaling Hogan, "Go get him! I'm blind. I can't do anything." So Hogan gets in the ring, and Yokozuna attacks Hulk Hogan right away, even though there is no bell.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, this match didn't start, but it doesn't matter. Yokozuna holds up Hulk Hogan, and then Mr. Fuji throws salt. Hulk Hogan ducks. It goes in Yoko's eyes. Hogan knocks down Fuji, clotheslines Yokozuna, hits the big leg drop to win the title. The crowd goes crazy for this bullshit. He's still over, even though this is so fucking weird.
Yeah, it is the weirdest. So the next day at school, I remember like I didn't watch this. I had no interest in this WrestleMania, right?
mm-hmm.
And I go to school the next day, and I see my friend who likes wrestling, and he went, Hulk Hogan won the belt last night, and that's what he starts with. And I'm like, wait, how the fuck? Because I'm thinking
Yeah.
like maybe Yokozuna, like I'm thinking like Brad or Yokozuna got hurt, and they just changed the whole show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, no, Yokozuna wins, but he cheated. Hogan comes out, and then I thought like, well, then Hogan and Yokozuna had like this long match. I'm thinking like there was this big. No, it was like 2 seconds long, and I go, what did Bret Hart do? Was Bret Hart upset? Like, no, Bret Hart told him to do it, and it just makes no sense. I'm like, look, back then I'm 12. I'm fucking so happy Hogan has the belt again because all this stuff is bullshit. But the way they did it was really fucking weird.
So I didn't know how it happened until years later, right? Remember, this is
Okay,
before the internet. I just knew,
I knew
like,
the next day.
I knew, like, no, I found out, like, through the magazine, Yokozuna, Hulk Hogan's a champion. And I was kind of like, I was like, wait, how did this happen? He wasn't even in the main event, right? And I assumed they just had this like amazing match afterwards, right? And then when I finally found out how it happened, I was like, I can't believe they fucking did that. Like, I
You
was
know what
so
I?
upset,
You know
you
what I
know?
would have done? You know what I would have done? I would have had Yokozuna have an impromptu match on Raw and win the belt from Brett on a Raw, and then Hogan comes out and is like, I want I want this, like you injured Brett. This is bullshit. And then you just go ahead like 2 weeks. We have to immediately change the card. Like you do this 2 weeks before WrestleMania. It's gonna be Hogan Yokozuna for the belt. and Hacksaw Jim Duggan is going to team with Bruce Beefcake, and then you have Hacksaw and Beefcake win. That's what I would have done if you were going to do it like this. I would have had like this fucking crazy angle on a Raw where Yokozuna's like, "Why don't we fight right now?" And Bret Hart's like, "Okay," and he loses, and then they destroy Bret, and then Bret's like, "I can't wrestle WrestleMania, Hogan. You take the match. Like, I want the winner, but you take the match, Hogan." Maybe even Lex interfere, and Lex and Yokozuna are just beating the shit out of Bret, and then you set up two feuds. You know what I'm saying? You can also set up Hogan down the road is going to take on Lex. Like he stops both of them. That's what
Yeah,
I would.
something is wrong with I don't know who's like I'm assuming it's Vince McMahon because it's he's
Vince is the
the
one who
guy
came
who
told Hogan. There's
yeah, but
conflicts
like
on who
no,
came up with this.
it's not just Hogan, but we made a couple of points. There's like so many things on this that just didn't make sense.
Yeah,
Like they're building, like you said, it. There's points in the show where they're building to Lex Luger, Bret Hart, right? Because they keep mentioning he attacked him. There's like points where it looks like they're building up like um what was the other one? Like Yokozuna. Well, I guess they do technically do that. Yokozuna
yeah.
versus
But you also
Hogan.
could have ended the show with Hogan saves Bret, then Hogan and Bret pose, and then Hogan goes and then Jack Tunney comes out and goes at the next pay per view. Hogan's gonna fight Yokozuna. And you don't have to have Hogan win the belt. You just have Hogan like save Bret Hart and pose with him and like be
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And then that you could have ended with a cliffhanger to build the next pay per view, right?
yeah.
But yeah, it was just fuck. The next pay per view wasn't that far. It was King of the Ring.
And then you know what got me nervous? I thought Hogan was gonna be on Raw. I thought Hogan was gonna be around again. And then like I remember it got to May and I'm watching Superstars, and they have Hogan on a beach from like Thunder in Paradise talking about Yokozuna. And I said, "My friend, has Hogan been on Raw?" Because I didn't have cable back then. He goes, "No, Hogan hasn't been on TV at all." And I'm like, "Well, why'd they give him the belt if he's not on TV?" Like I thought he was gonna be back. He was gonna be interacting. I'm like, "Oh, there's all these new characters. Hulkamania is back." And and I think a lot of people, I know this built a life like Brett didn't like Hogan after this, and rightfully so because Brett said because also they told Brett at WrestleMania, "You're gonna beat Hogan for the belt at SummerSlam," right?
Mhm.
And Brett thought he was gonna beat Yokozuna or they were gonna do a few, and now it's like Hogan has the belt, and you know it built a lot of resentment in Brett, and I can see why. And I don't know, like the way they handled it was very weird, and I think Vince put a lot of it on Hogan, which is why Brett is so mad at Hogan. But ultimately, Brett, I would say this: be mad at Vince because Vince could have said like, "No, you're not getting the belt. You're just going to save Brett," and he also could have said like, "You're going to wrestle Brett at SummerSlam." That's it. Like, but Vince is the one who was like, "Oh yeah, Hogan's going to do it. We're not going to do it." Like, so you have to be mad
No,
at Vince. You can't be mad at Hogan.
yeah, and Bret Hart's book, he talks about this, and he was very annoyed at Hogan, right? Because he
Yeah.
felt like Hogan was playing dumb when he's like, I know you exactly what you're doing. Don't play this fucking dumb game.
Mhm.
But he also does mention he felt bad for Yoko too, because they really
Well, I
they
thought
he was
Yoko.
like
I thought Yoko was finished after this match.
yeah, because Brett makes a good point in his book, and I think he mentioned it before. He wasn't the biggest fan of Yokozuna, but I think he makes a good point because people often forget Brett was not the only one who got fucked over that night.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was Yoko too, and he was like,
But
"Man, I really felt bad for what they did to Yoko as well." And I was
but I
like,
will say this: Yoko got the better end because he essentially ends Hulk Hogan in WWF.
"Yeah, yes, he does," and he
Like
gets a
and
very
Hogan
lengthy
never
run.
gets revenge. Hogan never
Yeah,
gets
and he gets a very lengthy run.
yeah. Did you watch the WWE icons about the documentary about Yokozuna where they interview Roman Reigns about this?
No, no, no.
So Roman Reigns was like the whole family was at WrestleMania 9. And the whole family's there. He's there as a kid. He's in like the skybox, whatever the fuck. And Yoko wins, and the whole family's hugging, and I'm cheering because it's my uncle. And here he comes, Hulk Hogan, and then we're all sitting here like, what the fuck? What like? And Roman's like, and the whole family just laughed like, what the fuck was that? What the fuck was that? Yeah,
That's why.
I wish they filmed young Roman watching the match. Like, yay, my uncle won. What?
Yeah,
Hogan's?
this is why he hired the entire family because he's probably felt guilt. Junior felt guilt over
The
this.
whole
Like,
family's
I
sitting in a
owe his whole
skybox.
family an apology. You guys all have jobs for life now.
But hey, I mean, I would say to Roman, but Yoko still like your family still destroyed Hogan at the long, and
I mean, at the end, but at that moment, you don't
I
know
know,
that.
and people
Yeah.
more remember that than King of the Ring. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
People Russ because they talk about WrestleManias for like the rest of.
I do agree with Brett on that. Is that I think when people talk about this moment, they they a lot of times talk about how much Hogan screwed Brett, but they never mention how Yoko also got fucked over on
Well,
this.
I'll tell you who else got fucked over is
The
Vince
fan?
fucked himself because no, because
Oh,
here's the thing, he pissed off. There's fans that are probably now like I'm done with all the guys that I'm still into. I'm into Brett. I'm into Yoko. Now you pissed off those fans, right? Now I'm kind of back in, but I'm not. Like I'm kind of back in after this because I think the promise that we're gonna go back to the Hogan era where he's on top. I think he's gonna be on top for the next like 2 years, 3 years,
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But then you immediately make Hogan look like a fucking bitch at the next pay-per-view, and then he goes away, and then you tell me that I have to now love Lex. So now you pissed me off. And now when you put Lex in that position, you're pissing me off because I want Hogan as the top guy, and you're pissing Brett's people off because they want Brett as a top guy. And
Mhm.
in the case of
Mhm.
me, I go away and I don't come back for years. For years. And the
Yeah.
only hope you had of getting me back was the guy that you probably weren't even believing in WCW, which is Stone Cold Steve Austin. So it's
Yeah.
like you really fucked yourself, and you fucked so many fans with this finish.
This is 1993, so they're gonna be fucked for the next 4 years or so,
Yeah,
right?
I would say this: if you're gonna do a finish like this, the guy who got the belt, go with him as a champ for like a year. Hogan, like if Hogan's gonna win the belt like this, he should just have the belt, and he should be like on all the house shows and stuff. Like if he's only like I'm gonna have 2 more matches and I'm gonna go away again, then there was no fucking reason to do this finish.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's like a reason why things fall apart between them, but I don't really give a
It's a
fuck.
steroid
At
trial.
the end
That
of
was
the day, at the end of the day, WrestleMania 9, it is one of the worst WrestleManias. It's not as bad as the one with the tournament. I forget which one that is. Two? Is that
it's
two?
probably the first one that people left with a bad taste in their mouths
Yeah. Four,
because
no,
up until
four is the
now
one with,
nobody.
was four the one with the tournament?
Yeah, that one's. I think that
That
one's
one was
worse.
pretty bad. That
That
one, I
one's
think that's
worse.
worse than this one. That one's
Yeah,
worse than this one. Yeah.
but the thing is,
Uh-huh.
4 leaves you in a good mood, and it sets up a lot of storylines that are played out logically. Doesn't just
I
abandon.
mean, to be fair though, when you're watching 9, all the fans are fucking happy at the end.
Yes, but I mean, as it played out, I think people look back now. I think people at home, and I think people when they look back on this show, it leaves like there's a lot of negative feelings towards it. Like there's a lot of like, and a lot of WrestleManias don't have that. And this is the first one that really has like, I don't think,
It's got a bad aftertaste.
yeah, I don't think this is the first one where you're like, to Vince McMahon, I don't think you know what you're doing anymore. Like I think
Yeah.
you kind of lost the step.
I would say for WrestleMania 9, there's two takeaways for me. Number one, would recommend people watch Mr. Perfect versus Lex Luger. I think that's the best match of the show. Number two, I think I've made a decision. The Steiner brothers are my favorite tag team of all time.
I think you might
These
be
guys just can't have a bad match. They just
right.
have good fucking matches. I love their matches, dude. I just love the Steiner brothers matches.
Well, it's going to be an interesting couple of shows as the Steiners go
What
through.
about, by the way, what about you? Is there anything you would recommend our
Um,
listeners for WrestleMania 9? Don't watch it at all. Watch
so
one thing.
I would say if you can if you can find on YouTube the Doink highlights, check that out, and then watch the Hogan finish to be like, what the fuck with Yoko. But other than that, I would say like if you like want to watch a random WrestleMania just to get in the mood for WrestleMania 40, don't pick this one.
No,
It
not
doesn't
this
feel
one.
like a WrestleMania to me.
No.
Just even for all its nonsense, feels like WrestleMania. You know, this doesn't feel like a WrestleMania. This feels like some weird house show where they don't know what they're doing. So, all right, guys, that's it for this week. Let's go. Let's preview the next 4 weeks. We're still in 93 for a while. Next week, Slamboree 93. We have Vader versus the British Bulldog. In 2 weeks, King of the Ring 93, where you have Hogan versus Yokozuna. In 3 weeks, Beach Blast 93, where you have Davey Boy Smith and Sting versus Vader and Sid Vicious. And then in 4 weeks, SummerSlam 93, in which you have Lex Luger versus Yokozuna. So what are you looking
Mm.
for?
King of the Ring. I saw it
Yeah, me too.
before, and I remember really, really enjoying it. So I'm looking forward to watching it.
I'm gonna let's see what happens with that. I've never seen it. Let's see how it plays
I
out for
never saw it all of it. I only
me.
saw some matches from it, but
I
it was
I am so fucking annoyed at that Hogan match, how they did it, but it is what it. Listen, when Hogan puts you over, he puts you over. That's what you have to say about Hogan. When Hogan decides to job, he doesn't like just kind of job. He lets you look like a fucking monster.
Hogan is it's man, I feel bad for what he does to himself in the early 90s because
You see how skinny he was? He got off the steroids. You see how
yeah, in all of the 80s, he's just so fucking good, right?
Mhm.
And even when he's winning, he makes the monsters look like monsters, because he's just getting his ass kicked and selling the whole match. And he just starts doing these weird things where he just starts popping up after finishes, no selling, and just like all this weird shit that just starts making you like, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of, and I've heard this before. Now it 100% makes sense. Reminds me of like Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho, if you look at his entire career, he's done so many great things, right? The whole Kevin Owens thing, right? The whole Shawn Michaels thing. He's done so many great things in his long span of careers. There's all that stuff in WCW that he did, but the last it's not even the entire AEW run because when he first got there, he legit did good things in the first 2 years. But it's been this last 2 years, it's almost just like the last 2 years is like ruining everything, his entire
Well,
legacy.
I
That's what
think
like Hogan's doing for me, you know?
but I also think he's worse than Hogan ever was because Hogan's much younger when he's doing this, and he had a lot. He had remember Hogan can't accept right now that he's not the top because he was literally just a top guy 2 years ago. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's harder. I think Hogan kind of goes from this year to 96. He basically has a midlife crisis in front of all of us. He can't handle that it's not the 80s anymore. And then he
It's kind of
embraces
like it's happening with Chris Jericho.
but the thing about Hogan is when he goes to the NWO, he embraces all the criticism and all of his doubts and all the things that he believes are true that none of you would have a job if it wasn't for me. And he embraces, oh, the negative feelings you have for me were correct. And now we're gonna fucking go with them. And he almost drives Vince out of business because when he just embraces all that shit, he doesn't run from it anymore. And he accepts the fact that I'm not the top baby face, but I'm still gonna show you why I'm the top guy. And
They're going to hit that point because I still think Jericho is a good performer, right? He's just
yeah,
going through some
Jericho.
Jericho, you got to admit, he is a good performer.
No, but
You have to.
that's wrong. But Jericho is not like he's not getting anyone over anymore, and he thinks because he's still like a great worker at like 90 years old that he can get away with it. And it's like no, like it's actually worse because you're so old and you're doing the stuff Hogan was doing in 94, 93. But Hogan was like 43, 44 when he was doing it. You're like 57 and you're doing like weird and you're not even doing at least Hogan could back up like hey, Nitro ratings are through the roof a year ago. This is why I have to hold down these guys. It's because of me. You know what I mean? But Jericho, like, the ratings are going down the toilet, and he's still playing these fucking games.
Yeah, but he's not hogging the main event spot.
No, but he doesn't get anyone over with the programs he does. He doesn't get he
No,
puts
he doesn't. But that's what I'm saying. He's right now. He's going through some kind of weird midlife crisis thing in front of our eyes, and
this
it's
is
just
the end of
like,
life crisis, I
yeah,
think.
he's like doing what Hogan's doing. It's just like, dude, the stuff you're doing is kind of ruining my view of you. And
Yeah.
I'm hoping because you know the thing with Hogan, because you know what, we have history, which is helpful. We know eventually Hogan turns things back around, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we're willing to accept it now. And I think for Jericho, I'm like hoping that happens with him, where he reaches a point where he goes, I am going to do something again where it's gonna make you guys realize, remember how good I am.
Yeah.
So hopefully,
Um
hopefully that happens before he retires.
whatchamacallit, I was gonna say fucking everyone, I can't. Everyone's saying tonight's episode of Dynamite was fantastic, but I feel like the people who say that every fucking week. So
Yeah, dude. They say
I
the
don't
same
think
fucking
it's,
dude.
dude. No one ever just is like, that's a good episode of Dynamite. It's always like the best episode in years.
Tony Khan says that about every single one of his pay per. It's this is the best pay per view we've had. He said that like I don't
So
listen to
someone had a great point about, they were talking about Sting versus Jericho. They were like, Sting did no jobs but got everyone over. Jericho did a ton of jobs but got no one over, and that's the difference.
So I mean, who did Sting get over?
Well, he made the Young Bucks look good, even though he won.
Come on. I mean, the Young Bucks, they're already. He didn't get them over.
I don't know. That's what somebody said. I don't know. I kind of think it was kind of,
I
like
don't agree with
people.
that.
You know what? The other
I
thing
don't
about the
think
Sting, no one wants to say is about the Sting thing, right? About like, listen, Sting. I thought the retirement match with Sting was really good, but no one wants to say this is that the reason why Sting had this run is because they don't have the health protocols that WWE has. Because I feel like the reason why WWE wouldn't let Sting do all this shit is like, no, your body's fucked up, and if you hurt yourself, it's on us, and we have these new policies, so we're to protect the wrestlers from themselves. So that's why Sting. I guarantee you, Kurt Angle wanted to go to AEW and jump off a fucking cage again. Tony Khan let him be there next week. You
Yeah.
know,
I
so
would
it's like,
agree.
yeah, he did a lot of crazy shit. That's because they don't have any safety protocols.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm. All right.
All right. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say I'm tired.
Oh, okay. Guys, yo, WrestleMania Sunday, me and the Laps fan, we're doing a show at Philly, Punchline Philly. There'll be a link somewhere. Check my social media. Also, you gotta follow the podcast, Goose's Wrestling Pod, subscribe, leave a comment. Some of you had leaving more comments. Some of you left a comment about Royal Rumble 93, which was great. And follow Andrew Son of Lee. He put up a fire last night, so if you don't watch something burn down, it's on Andrew's
Somebody
Instagram.
actually died in that fire.
You deleted it?
No, somebody actually died in that fire.
Oh, you still put it on social media.
No, but I put up my videos of it, but I didn't know somebody actually died until later.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, rest in peace.
I didn't know the person. That's okay.
Okay. Well, now they're not going to be able to watch Slamboree 93 with us. All right. So next week, Slamboree 93 with me and Andrew Libra. We'll see you then.